Hi everyone, this is Andrew. Today I'll be talking about two-income families and why they are bad for society. So first of all, let's define what a two-income family is. I say it's a family with small children where both parents work, usually full-time, and the children are in daycare or school. So what are the benefits of this arrangement? Well, I think the number one benefit would be money. Of course, if there are two incomes coming into a household, then people will have more money in general, I suspect. So what can we do with more money? Well, households typically buy a bigger home or a better home, however you define that. Maybe a home that's closer to the city centre or closer to the workplace. Better education can be bought with money. Well, again, you have to define what better means. It might mean a private school. It might mean a more reputable public school. And money can also buy nicer stuff, so maybe newer cars or nicer cars, better clothes, nicer fashion, etc. Okay, what's another benefit of a two-income household? Well, the childcare industry benefits, don't they? Because almost certainly most customers of childcare centres come from two-income households. I don't know what other types of families would use childcare. Maybe single-parent households, but that's a different story. But I don't think where there's a stay-at-home parent, they would bother with childcare unless there's some sort of emergency. So yes, the childcare industry definitely benefits from a two-income household. And some people would argue that socialisation is another key factor. That is, parents who work have more satisfaction, I guess, in their social lives. Parents who go to work typically have more friends or more social interaction throughout the day. Not always, but this could be one argument. But I think that's where the benefits stop. So I don't think there's that many benefits to a two-income family. And now for the downsides. Now, I'm going to focus my talk on the downsides because I think they far outweigh the benefits. Now, the first one is the effects on children. Now, some daycares, at least here in Australia, are accepting children as young as 6 weeks. Now, in my opinion, that's a baby. A baby is being put into daycare. Now, that can't be good. Now, I've read a lot of literature on this, a lot of articles, and I just don't see any benefits in putting a baby into daycare at 6 weeks of age. Sure, some mothers will argue that they need the income. They need to go back to work as soon as possible to pay for their mortgage or their car repayments or whatever it may be. But we're talking babies here. They need their mothers. They need to be nurtured. They need to be held. I think the scientific evidence is quite strong on this. They need their mothers. So I don't see any reason to put a baby in daycare. I think it should be outlawed personally, but that's just my opinion. Of course, the daycare industry would argue against me, saying that they look after the babies very well and they have low teacher-to-baby ratios or whatever. But, of course, they've got a vested interest in keeping as many children in their daycare centres as possible, don't they? They've got a financial incentive. Now, what about other children, say children that are less than 3 years old? Well, I've read various articles on the matter, and some state that young children suffer feelings of abandonment when placed in that sort of situation, and that's not good for their emotional development. Yeah, sure, some studies tout the benefits, at least the academic benefits of children who've been to daycare, but I think academic benefits shouldn't be outweighed by the emotional development of your child. Academic measurements are just one way to measure a child's development. I think their emotional development is far more important. Okay, now let's go on to another downside of two-income families, and that is house prices. Yes, a very divisive topic. Other people have written about this too, and I think it needs pointing out again. When people have more access to easy money, that is debt from mortgage or whatever, then they can go out and outbid others when it comes to buying a house. So if lots more couples are working 2 jobs, that is two-income families I mean, then of course the house prices will rise to meet that newfound pool of money. So yes, house prices I think are definitely affected by the rise of two-income families. And what does this mean for single-income families like myself? Well, we're pretty much priced out of the market. So it's almost like couples are being forced to work 2 jobs just so that they can buy a house, or at least get a big enough mortgage in order to buy a house. Places like Sydney, the prices are ridiculous. I don't know what the median house price is now, but I believe it's over $1 million. And that's not even for a nice sort of house. It's just for an average, low-quality house in some places. So I think it's a bit ridiculous that our government supports the rise of this two-income family. They do it through incentives such as daycare, childcare benefits. So I guess the question is, has two incomes really benefited these families? I would suggest no. I mean, if all your income is just being chewed up with mortgage repayments, then what's the point, really? Okay, the third downside, I would say, is stress. With two incomes comes two jobs, and with two jobs comes lots and lots of stress. Look, I only work part-time and casually, and that's enough stress. I have worked full-time before, and that was very stressful. Now, for both parents to be put into that situation, both parents working full-time, I would suggest that's a lot of stress in a family, and probably unwanted stress. Now, with stress comes what? Well, I think stressed parents who come home don't treat their children typically very well. I'm not saying that they mean to treat them badly, but when somebody is stressed, they tend to overreact. They tend to snap. They tend to, Jimmy, get to your room. Jimmy, why haven't you done this? And so on. I don't think it's good for the children. And the fact that the children are spending all day in daycare, then they come home to snappy parents, I think that's bad for the family dynamic. Now, I've worked as a tutor over the last few years, a home tutor that is, so I've got to experience a lot of this firsthand. And usually parents who can afford home tutoring are often the two-income variety. Now, how would I describe the average home tutoring student? Well, I would suggest that they're overworked, they're overstressed, they're often doing multiple extracurricular activities such as tennis and ballet or any other number of things. Their parents are thinking that by spending lots of money on them, by paying for all these extracurricular activities, they're making up for their time that they're not spending with them. Now, I don't think that's right. I don't think a child should be outsourced to all these other groups. Yes, the parents have money, and yes, they feel that they need to do something to help their child. So I understand their motive. But I think what the children really need is time with their parents. A lot of my students, when I arrive at their house, their parents aren't there. Of course, at first they were. They needed to check that I was okay and so on. But once they become to trust me, then often it's just the child at home. Now, I'm not talking young children. I'm talking maybe 14-year-old, 15-year-old children. But I think children of any age really need that parental bond. I think they need to see their parents, and it adds a lot of stability to the family life if a parent is at home when the child arrives. So I think there is huge benefits to having a stay-at-home parent. Okay, so what are the benefits of having a single-income family, so having a parent stay at home, or possibly having two parents that work but only work part-time? Well, I think the benefits are clear. First, there's going to be a much more stable house environment. That is, the house will be tidier, people will have more time to clean the house. Home-cooked meals would be more common, I would suggest. I think two-income families probably eat out a lot more frequently than single-income families. Parents have more time to play with their children. For example, I work part-time, but I work during school hours, so I'm able to go pick up my son from school and take him home, and we have a good chat walking home, as well as when we get home we can play some Lego or do some reading, and I think it just builds a much happier house environment. I think single-income families should be promoted in our society. I think government benefits that favour two-income families should be scrapped. I don't think it benefits society at all, only from possibly an economic sense. But the economy isn't everything. I think other factors are much more important in society, such as the emotional health and physical health of the population. The rise of the two-income family, I think, has not benefited Australia, and I don't think it's benefiting any country for that matter. We've got house prices that are going through the roof. We've got children stuck in daycare all day, and we've got unhappy households. We should all be pushing for a society that doesn't require two incomes per household. A single income should be enough. It used to be that way, so why isn't it now? Anyway, I'm done. Cheers.